For more Magic the Gathering resources, check out my friends at paperchampion.net and Kitchen Table MTG. Hey everybody, this is Tao at The Forge, and today I wanted to go through the recap of my black-green Obliterator deck. Now, if you've been following the series, you'll have seen that it's actually been pretty good. Now, I didn't post every single match I played, because some of them, like, I either just got completely destroyed, like, or it just wasn't really interesting. Like, one of them, I went to turn 12, like, I started with two mana, and I went to turn 12 and still didn't draw any mana, and it was just relying on all my removal to get rid of my, my opponent's, like, threats. But, yeah, after turn 12, I just couldn't take it anymore, and just got crushed. You know, that shouldn't happen generally with 24 lands in your hand, but in that game it did. Other ones, like, as soon as your opponent found out what you were doing, they would just drop the game, you know, and they didn't want to play that. So I found, like, probably that happened, like, maybe 1 in 3 or maybe 1 in 4 games, which is really kind of irritating, you know, like, it's just not fun. For a lot of the games that I did win, I won the first match, and then afterwards my opponent didn't continue on until, like, to the second or third matches. They just dropped the game after that as well. Like, I'm not sure what it is. Is it this deck, or maybe it's just, you know, people just, like, they see Phyrexian Obliterator and they're just like, oh crap, or whatever. Like, but, like, those ones, like, I don't know why my opponents just quit, but, you know, that's the way it is, I guess. But overall, I'd say that you win more often than not with this deck. So I'd say, like, you know, my experience is probably about 60-40 or maybe 65-35, somewhere in that range. Overall, like, you know, they're pretty good matches. Even the ones when you lose, often you're very close. But sometimes you just get completely blown out, mainly because if your opponent's playing, like, straight up aggro and you don't have the removal right away, then it's just a nightmare for you, because, like, it just takes so long to get everything online, and if your opponent just has, like, all these detention spheres and stuff like that, then life is just hard. So, anyways, but every deck has their own weaknesses, and that's just the weakness of this deck. So, anyways, but it is a pretty fun deck to play. Let's go through some of the changes I made. So, first of all, I upgraded some of the lands here. Now, you'll notice, like, I still have the Woodland Cemetaries and the Overgrown Tombs, but I dropped down 1 forest and a couple swamps, and I put in Windswept Heaths and Polluted Deltas. Now, these are not the ideal fetch lands, but I don't have the other fetch lands. What is it, the Overgrown Tomb or whatever? Or no, I forget what it is. But anyways, I don't have the black-green fetch lands, but this will do anyways. Like, this one can fetch a swamp, and these ones fetch forests, and so I can either get... most of the time I'm looking for Overgrown Tomb or just forest. Ideally, I'd like to play more Polluted Deltas than Windswept Heaths, because I just have more swamps to get, but I never felt like I didn't have a target for them, so, you know, that was pretty good. The thing also is that, like, often when you need that green mana, you really need that green mana. Right, so it's good to be able to go fetch it, and then I found once you get to a certain amount of land, like about 4 or 5, or maybe even 6, after that you don't really need lands anymore. So what you're going to do is, like, you're just basically thinning out your deck with these fetch lands, and I thought that was actually a nicer addition there. I had a lot fewer mana problems when I put those fetch lands in. It could be just the way that it rolled, you know, just the variance and the luck, but I like it like this. Alright, so I tried a few things. So Arzang of the Brothers of Light gave me a couple suggestions. One was to put in Abrupt Decay. So I threw in 2 Abrupt Decays, and man, do they ever come in handy. They are actually a really solid call there. I would actually potentially even put in 4 of them, just because they're just so good. Right? It just depends if you want hand disruption, like Duress and Inquisition, or if you'd rather have just removal. I'm actually would lean more towards even just doing the full playset of Abrupt Decays, because they're just that good. Another thing you could do, I put in Hero's Downfall, okay, instead, but as you can see, I have it in my sideboard. Alright, so going on, Let's see, I kept the Duresses. I had originally substituted Duress for some regeneration spells, but I found I never used them. Like, often they would just sit in my hand, and when I had a chance to use them, they were really not really that good. So it was a good idea, but you know, it just didn't work out like I thought it would. So I took out the regeneration spells and kept Duress and Inquisition. Fatal Push is usually a superstar, but some of the matches, like I was playing against Tron once, and basically, or wasn't Tron, or Eldrazi or whatever, and all their creatures are just too big for Fatal Push, so I found I sideboarded those immediately. Ulvenwald Tracker is pretty good, although I never used his fight ability. It's a good 1/1 threat to get out, but people just removed it right away. But still, it eats a removal spell, so that's good. Gatekeeper of Malakir is a superstar in the deck, for real. Mainly because you're trying to stall the game state until you can get your Phyrexian Obliterator out, and just being able to drop a Gatekeeper of Malakir and force your opponent to sacrifice one of their creatures is just actually really, really good. Right, so that one is a really strong one. Savage Punch, I liked, but it's a sorcery speed. You know, I think it would be too strong if it were an instant, you know, getting +2/+2 till end of turn, and you fight a creature. But I think that it depends on how you want to play. Savage Punch, I think, can be pretty good, but sometimes it's nice to be able to do it on your opponent's turn. Especially because you're not always forcing Obliterator to fight. Like, there's been times when I used one of these to force a fight between, like, let's say I've got two creatures, my opponent has two creatures, then what I can do is I can force a fight between one of them, and then drop a Gatekeeper of Malakir or something like that, and force them to sacrifice it. I think that happened in the Death Shadow match. But anyways, Setessan Tactics is really strong as well. I wouldn't change these really. Vampire Nighthawk I found was just okay. The Death Touch is nice. It holds back threats. The lifelink I pretty much, well, didn't really care that much about it. But, I mean, I'm never going to complain about getting, you know, 3 extra life or whatever. Geralf's Messenger is really, really strong. Again, it's just a pain in the ass because, you know, it coming back all the time, and it comes back stronger than it did before. So, you know, I actually really like Geralf's Messenger, and, of course, Phyrexian Obliterator is a star when you can get it out. The problem is you just can't get it out consistently, which is why you need these other superstars, you know, this mono black good stuff here to kind of close out the game in case you don't get the Obliterator out. One thing I did consider is a Dark Confidant, you know, to try and generate that extra card advantage. The only problem is that everything we run has very high mana costs. So, like, Dark Confidant, like, you know, if it finds a Phyrexian Obliterator, it can just crush you, right? So, you know, I'm reluctant to run Dark Confidant, mainly for that, right? Because, like, let's say 3 turns in a row, you get, like, Dark Confidant, no, you get a Vampire Nighthawk, a Geralf's Messenger, and Phyrexian Obliterator. You just lost 10 life in 3 turns, you know, from your own Dark Confidant. I think that's kind of harsh, you know, so I don't know, I'm on the fence about it, but I'm leaning more towards no, that you shouldn't have that. Alright, so that's pretty much the deck. Let's see, going into the sideboard, I've got still the 2 surgical extractions, which were nice. The Relic of Progenitus was nice as well when you needed it. Back to Nature and Naturalize were great. I never ever used Spellskite, but I think that it still has a place there, mainly because I didn't play any burn decks, or I didn't play Bogles or anything like that. But I still think Spellskite's a nice addition. And anyways, Ensnaring Bridge also is just kind of meh. Like, my idea was to throw down Ensnaring Bridge and then just hide my creatures around it until I could force fights between them, and then I could force my Phyrexian Obliterator to, you know, to, like, force my opponent to sacrifice all their permanents with the Phyrexian Obliterator, and then, you know, and then attack my own Obliterator with Ulvenwald Tracker or something like that, and then destroy my own Ensnaring Bridge, and then go to town after I've established a really strong board state. I never actually got a chance to do that, so if you're looking for something to add to the sideboard, the Ensnaring Bridges probably would be the first thing to come out. You'll notice I also took out from the original deck, I also removed the Damnations. I just found that when I used it, I didn't really feel that happy about using it. You know, and it didn't come in handy that much, and originally I had it, I think, at main decked as well. It just wasn't that good, as you know, so I took it out. A better thing was Hero's Downfall, I think. I never actually played with Hero's Downfall in my sideboard, but I would actually even consider going Ensnaring Bridge out, both Ensnaring Bridges out, and doing a full play set of Hero's Downfall, mainly because this deck really likes removal. Right? It just wants to remove threats all the time until you can get your Obliterator out, and then once your Obliterator comes out, then you want to just start crushing your opponent. Right? So I would potentially remove the Ensnaring Bridges for more Hero's Downfall, or Tragic Slip, or just something else. Necrogen Mists, I think, is still a decent pick, but I, again, never really used it. So again, these could come out, you know, and you could put something else in there, maybe like a Liliana might be nice, or something like that. You know, if you've got tons of cash and just burning a hole in your wallet, then go ahead and take out Necrogen Mist. But I'm sure there's other black things that you could put in this spot. But overall, the sideboard, I think, could still use a little bit of work, but the deck itself is actually pretty solid, and it's fun to play. It's overall not really that interactive. You're just trying to remove, stall, and then you get your Obliterator out, and then you're going to town on your opponent. But it's still a good match. I had fun with it, and I liked it. It's not by far my favorite deck, but it's a good one. Anyways, if you have questions or comments about the deck, please throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Special thanks to Arzang of the Brothers of Light, who gave me some of the ideas for, especially the Abrupt Decay idea. That was a really good pick. But if you have anything else you want to say about it, let me know. If you want to see more battles with this, then again, let me know too. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.